REALER Sports in depth. My name is Peter Rosenberg, and today's guest, WBA champion, Paulie Malignaggi. How are you, buddy?
Good. Ready to go.
What title is that you got? What title are you sitting on?
WBA welterweight title.
Welterweight title.
Yeah.
How's that feel? How's that feel to have?
It feels good. A lot of life's work, but it's never cool to make the weight.
Yeah, I bet it's not. What do you got right here? These are some wrist weights?
Yeah. As a fight approaches, I walk around with wrist weights just to make my hands feel a little lighter when I put gloves on.
It's weird that I don't see that more often. Do more people do that a lot, walking around with it?
You see guys shadow boxing and training with weights on their wrists and stuff. I don't like to do that. I like to when I get to the gym, I actually don't like to use the weights. I like to feel like I get to the gym, the gloves will feel lighter than my everyday life. If I wear these every day for a couple of weeks, and then I'll get.
And then when you get to the gym, you're like, oh, my hands are so light.
My hands feel light. Exactly. Kind of that reverse.
Makes
psychology.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's smart. Although in theory, I guess when people box, you want your hands to feel light, but also you want your punches to feel heavy.
Yeah, exactly. But you want to deliver them with some speed. So.
That's right. So you're from Bensonhurst.
Bensonhurst, yeah, but I'm born in South Brooklyn.
Born in South Brooklyn. What is technically South Brooklyn?
Long Island College Hospital.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I think they just closed it, right?
I don't know. Did they?
I think I heard they just.
I'll
closed
be honest.
it.
I haven't spent a lot of time in South Brooklyn. In fact, I don't know if I've ever even heard the description of South Brooklyn in South Brooklyn.
That's how us Brooklynites call it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
What do you guys call it? Downtown Brooklyn?
Probably. Yeah, if that's what it's referring to.
Carroll Gardens.
Carroll Gardens is one. Is that?
It's that whole area. Yeah.
Carroll Gardens is now a really nice place to live, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It definitely changed since I was born there.
It's a little different.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you have a huge fight coming up this weekend against Adrian Broner, Barclays Center.
Yep.
You've already fought the Barclays Center once or twice?
One time.
What's it like being a Brooklyn guy? What is it like now having a huge arena to fight in your hometown?
Well, it's cool, because you're gonna get a lot of support there. You're gonna get your family, your friends. Anytime. This is the way I describe it too. Anytime you get into a big fight, you have a big fight, and the ring announcer announces where you're from and your name and all that stuff. Everybody's proud of where they come from, but to be from Brooklyn and to have this arena and fight in Brooklyn, and to hear the ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon mention my name and it's out of Brooklyn, New York, and being in the borough inside of the new arena like this, it sends more of a charge through your body, man. You get that adrenaline rush, and it's a lot of the reason why guys like me box, guys like me have a career like this, because you do this for moments like that, so to be a part of something like that in a big fight even next week, in a big main event in Brooklyn, I know the ring announcer is going to say Brooklyn, New York, Paulie Malignaggi, and I know I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it in that moment.
What is it about Brooklynites that makes you guys so damn proud of being from Brooklyn? And usually, as Saif and I always point out, the worse an area you're from, the more proud you are of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Here's the thing, man. I mean, I think all people from Brooklyn have some character. You have probably, if you're raised in Brooklyn, you have probably had to overcome some things on your way to becoming an adult, and so I think that kind of leaves that chip on your shoulder and makes you have that pride about, hey, man, and I'm from Brooklyn. That means I overcame something to get to where I'm at. I mean, for myself, I'm born in New York, but my family moved back to Italy, so we kind of came back as immigrants, when I was a kid, living on welfare and trying to get through the system and whatnot and overcoming all that, so for me it's that same Brooklyn chip on my shoulder.
So when did your family go back to Italy?
I was a few months old.
And they went back for a while?
6 years. Yeah.
And then so you come back here like 6.5 years old, and
yeah,
you're
and
an Italian kid.
I didn't speak English now.
Yeah, so
yeah.
That's really interesting. So do you have dual citizenship?
Yeah.
So how much love do you get in Italy?
I get some love. Boxing's not so big in Italy, but I get some love, especially as my name's gotten bigger. When I go back there, I end up on a lot of talk shows and newspapers write about it and stuff. So a little bit at a time. It'd be nice if they spend some money on boxing so I could fight there, though.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, don't you find that really interesting too? That with such a rich history with Italian-American boxing, that Italy itself doesn't have more of a relationship with boxing is almost surprising.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a bit surprising. But that's the thing about Italy is they don't consider Italian-Americans really as part of them so much, so to speak. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have dual citizenship, but a lot of the Italian-Americans don't, So Italians like to keep what's theirs, and if you've left, they kind of look at you like, you got a little bit of Italian in you, but you're not like us.
Right.
So,
different situation.
Yeah.
All right, so I noticed that you're rocking the Heat jersey today in the midst of the finals. Are you a huge LeBron fan, a huge Heat fan?
I respect LeBron. I respect his game. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, though. But being the Heat won a big game last night and it matches the outfit, I said, let me throw the Heat on.
Where do you rank LeBron in terms of the best players to ever do it?
It's hard to rank him right now because he's still playing. You can't really put him and put that in perspective until his career is over and his playing days are over, and you got to look at it by the numbers, and you got to look at it how he reacts in big moments and whatnot. Obviously he's a super talent. He lives for the big moment, but I think there's been better clutch players. But he has been a pretty good clutch player himself, But when it's all said and done, he may surpass some of the guys of the past. You never know.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see with him whether, and I said this a lot today, but in the last game, to see D Wade's performance late, I think was a lesson for LeBron in seeing what you're supposed to do when you're that guy late in the game. And I know it doesn't necessarily make sense, and people would say, well, LeBron's so good at making other players better, and that's true. But even Magic in a clutch game down the stretch he was shooting the ball. Yeah. You have to shoot the ball.
You have to want the ball in your hands. The guys like Jordan never wanted to give it up.
No, exactly.
Moments,
and last night you saw D Wade late in the game. He was coming to grab the ball right off the rebound, and he might not even give it up till the end of the shot clock if he gave it up at all.
Yep.
What about your own legacy? How much do you think about that as a boxer? You're now 32 years old, and depending on who your heroes are, that could either mean you have 5 years in your career left, or if you're a Hopkins fan, it can mean you have 17 years in your career left. It depends on what your aspirations are, but where do you want to see the Paulie Malignaggi boxing story end?
I'm not quite sure. I stopped thinking about that a long time ago. I just kind of take every fight one at a time, and I try to build my own success story. I think my goal overall, in the beginning of my career was obviously different than what it is now. I've won 2 world titles. I don't know where people are going to rank me as far as my boxing career. I don't think I get a lot of love like I deserve as far as what I've accomplished. But I do have a goal that I want to be successful in life, not just in boxing, And so if I can be successful in life and not just in boxing, and transition over, like I have a job with Showtime and doing broadcasting and stuff like that, and continue to do stuff like that and even more other stuff, for me, that's pretty much the goal, is to build a legacy in life, not just in boxing, because you see so many championship level boxers retire and end up with nothing, and rarely do boxers make the kind of impact money that you need to get through life. But then those rare fighters that make the impact money, a lot of them lose it, So I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be the guy that people talk about and say, yo, that guy could really fight. But man, look at him now, So the goal here is to stay successful, whether however long I stay in boxing or as I transition out of it as well.
I wonder how much that affects your decision making too, because not a lot of athletes have that foresight of thinking, I'm a really good fighter, but in order to make sure I have I'm well to do for the rest of my life, that may mean transitioning into something else. So that may also affect your decision making on when you decide to pull the plug on the boxing part, because you may have a lot of guys who fight until the bitter end, because truth be told, they may not be able to transition that nicely. Yeah. However, as you've said, you're a Brooklyn guy, got a lot of personality. The transition for you might be a good fit. You got a good name. You got a nice little thing that could come together nicely in a secondary part of your career. So does that affect when you go, you know what, this is a good time to end?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't intend to fight that much longer. I don't. I think maximum 1 or 2 more years. But it's moments like this particular fight coming out with Adrian Broner, where it's a mega fight. It's people are talking about it. It's getting a lot of hype. It's moments like this that make me sit back and think, this is why I still want to do this. Right. It's these kind of moments. If it wasn't for these kind of moments, maybe it'd be harder to get up for it. It'd be like, I got another job. I don't really need to do this. So I really want to get up and train so hard every day, or make weight, or walk around with these things every day for a couple of weeks. Right. But at the end of the day, it's these big moments, and the fact that I can still be a part of these big moments, these big fight cards, I say, you know what, this is why I do this, because these are dreams that people have that they can never achieve, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where I can still achieve these kind of dreams.
What is that energy like? Like, I mean, I guess particularly in Brooklyn, but generally speaking, whether it's Vegas or AC or anywhere, that feeling like in the ring, in the arena, main event time, moments before the bell, are you able to take it all in? Like,
yeah, it's an adrenaline rush. I mean, it's like a mixture of nerves, being pumped up, being psyched up. It's an adrenaline rush like no other. I tell people all the time, you can't really put it into words and describe it. It's because you're also moments away from fighting, and then even in the fight, the crowd is loud and it's crazy, especially during the heated moments of exchanges and stuff. It's a tough thing to describe verbally.
I would imagine.
I wish I could just put that feeling onto somebody and just say, here, feel it for 5 seconds, see how it feels.
Well, isn't that one of the reasons why it's probably so hard to let go of? Because you can never get that. Even if you love your next career, it's not going to be that feeling.
Yeah. It's hard to find a rush like that. It's hard to find a rush like that again. And you kind of have to. you kind of have to figure. You just have to know how to let it go in a way, or find something to replace it, but it'll never quite replace it the same way, you know?
Well, I always say that's the reason when a lot of people, obviously totally different because entertainment versus sport, but when a lot of people say, like, why does The Rock go back to wrestling? I'm like, well, he likes acting, but the feeling of walking to an arena by yourself and the place goes crazy, you can't get that from being on a set.
Yep. I've done small time acting, and everybody has to be quiet. You know,
right,
when they say action, nobody can talk. So you don't have that same rush, you know?
Right, when you
as
walk
opposed
out
to
and they announce your
walking
name?
out to the arena and everybody's going crazy. It's a different rush.
Is there ever anything that's routine? Like whenever we're watching, you know, a match, you know, the whole party, whoever you're with, is like, oh, they'll show the replay and everyone kind of grimaces together, and I'm sure to us it looks worse than it probably feels to you in the heat of the moment. But are there any things that happen regularly in boxing that, you know, might surprise someone that really smarts and like actually hurts a little bit, or is it all
body shots? I mean, body shots. I'd rather take a hard headshot than a hard body shot any day.
Any day.
Yeah, any day. If your body shot hits you right, it's not a pretty feeling. I try to tell people, think of maybe your insides being taken and squeezed like a sponge, like
that's
kind of like how I think about it when I feel that pain. It's like, yeah.
But the headshots
feels like what's happening. A headshot may concuss you.
It may daze you.
It may daze you. You may feel like you're stepping in potholes when in fact the ground is perfectly even. But you know, it's just not a pain as much as it is you're dazed. You know, body shots actually hurt. They hurt.
Right.
You know?
Have you ever gone down from a body shot?
No. I've been down on the gym once from a body shot. You know, if anybody tells you they've never been down in the gym, they're full of BS. Trust me.
Right.
Through many years, we sparred thousands and thousands of rounds. I mean, you go down in the gym here and there.
Yeah, you have to, right? Yeah. If you have a good sparring partner who's hopefully actually making you work, right?
Yeah, I mean, through the years, you have some good days and bad days in the gym. I mean, I can say I've probably sparred thousands on top of thousands of rounds. You know.
Are there any fighters who have seen you in person and that you looked out in the crowd and saw them sitting there and you were like, damn, I can't believe so-and-so is watching me fight?
Yeah. I mean, Mike Tyson, and not just fighters. I mean, actors and famous people in general. I mean, I remember the first time I saw a famous person in the crowd, I was fighting on the Vitaly Klitschko Craig Johnson card years ago in Madison Square Garden, and I saw Denzel Washington and Dan Marino ringside as I was waiting for introductions to begin for my fight, and I'm like, I mean, I know they're not here for me. They're here for the main event.
But they're there and for your fight.
Yeah, they're there and they're watching my fight right now. So it was pretty cool, you know. But since then, I've seen other famous people, and it never stops getting cool, you know. It's always like I'm always amazed that I'm like, wow, this person knows who I am. You know,
and it's not even like a team sport where if you're on a team, they're there to hear. They're especially if you're main eventing, they're there to see you fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when Tyson shows up, he's there to see. And you know, someone like Tyson, who's been a guest right here, he is a huge boxing man. He knows you well, and he's from Brooklyn.
I mean, the first time when I was close enough to Tyson, I didn't want to bother him. I had seen him so many times, including in the arena, and I remember I walked by him. I was at the Joel Casamayor versus Juan Manuel Marquez card, and I was walking around and I see people mobbing Tyson. I'm like, I'm not gonna bother him. You know, he actually put his hand on my chest. He's like, yo, and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this guy knows who I am. It's wild, you know. It was the coolest feeling in the moment, you know.
It has to be. How many people, honestly, do you bring out next Saturday at the Barclays for your fight against Broner? How many people will you personally bring out?
Personally, I'd say 100 to 150 people. Personally, for me,
and those are comps. 150.
No, you pay for those.
You pay for them.
I pay for some of them. Some of them I resell out. I resell out to my people. You know, like when they want to have the best seats. Yeah, and then obviously, whatever part of Brooklyn wants to support the Magic Man, come out. You know. Boom.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Also, you don't keep these on when you watch porn, do you?
Well, if I'm watching porn right before a fight, I got problems. But if I do get tempted, I'll keep them on anyway.
I mean, that's you want to put in some good work. Paulie Malignaggi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, bro.
Thanks.